What's up, guys? We're back with Bad End Theater today. And I guess we're gonna figure out what happened to the maiden, right? Because last time we played, she just died, pretty much. So what if we change it to where the underling is not hungry? Disloyal? Yeah, we'll leave him disloyal. We're gonna change it, or we're gonna leave the hero where he is, and we will make the maiden polite and see what that takes us to. So we just encountered the underling, so let's just introduce ourselves. You tell the demon your name and explain that you're a maiden from the village. You tell them that you were thinking maybe you could understand your role better if you were to hurry up and get taken away by a demon already. The demon doesn't seem to have really been listening to you, which is a little irritating. They agree to take you to their master nonetheless. After a long walk to the castle, you are introduced to the Overlord. She lectures the underling that brought you here, who was apparently told not to leave their post. You wonder what cruel punishment awaits them. But to your surprise, she lets them off easy. The underling is dismissed, and the Overlord turns to you, looking very interested. You explain why you come, and she squints at you. It turns out she never had any plans to capture maidens, or to do anything else that would agitate the humans. You wonder for a moment if she might be lying, but it doesn't really seem like that, or like it still. This doesn't make any sense to you. You've always been told that demons would one day seek you out and something awful would happen. Then a hero would come to your rescue. You don't want to believe you've been lied to all along. Maybe it's just that you haven't been maiden-like enough. You ask the Overlord what you should do to be a more suitable maiden, but she doesn't seem to understand. Just go home and stop worrying about destiny so much. She makes it sound so simple. This Overlord seems like the complete opposite of you. You want to learn more about her and how she thinks. You insist on staying to talk with her more. The Overlord tells you again that you should get lost. How rude, you just got here. We'll listen to her. You don't want to cause any trouble, so you figure it's time to go home. Along the way, you encounter a hero. He's covered in demon blood. You are frightened by the sight of him and run away. You return to the village alone. Everyone was very worried about you. They surround you with 1,000 questions, and you tell them your story. As you explain that the Overlord never had any intention to harm anyone here, you notice the look of uncertainty in the crowd. People are whispering things to each other while you speak to them. You are loudly interrupted by an older man. He rudely calls you a demon sympathizer. The crowd is growing unruly. You don't understand. You've only told them the truth. Do they not believe you? Everyone begins speculating what must have actually happened. They weave elaborate lies and ask you to prove your innocence. How could you have returned without the aid of a hero? They ask. You cannot have possibly escaped the Overlord on your own without harm. You must be conspiring with the demons, trying to trick everyone into believing they aren't the horrible creatures we know them to be, so they say. Have the people of your village always been this blinded by their fears and hatred of things they never cared to know? You wonder how you missed that before. You are seized by the crowd, and voices from all sides are calling for public execution. You are to be burned at the stake. You don't want to die. You wonder, would it have been better to hide the truth? You don't like the thought of that. You have always lived honestly. So why has this happened? Why are you being punished? You hear the descending voices of your family and neighbors, but they, like you, are powerless against the momentum. They can only watch as you burn, and you can only cry for them. You are so sorry. Executed maiden ending. Okay. Let's see what's going on over with the Overlord. You are the Overlord. You live in a castle surrounded by your demon servants. It's a pretty cushy life, you think. Except for those pesky humans who keep killing members of your army. There's even a role called hero, whose whole purpose in life is to just dethrone you. That's good to know. What's their deal anyways? You've actively avoided pissing off the humans in hopes they'll leave you and your army alone, but they never do. You're still new to this whole Overlord thing. If you're being quite honest with yourself, you don't really understand the politics of it. But you remind yourself everyone is just doing their best to fulfill their roles. You won't let them bait you into being the evil overlord they expect. You think you are pretty cool and mature to hold yourself to the higher standards like that. One of your underlings walks into your room, totally interrupting your thoughts about how awesome you are. They're saying something about how boring it is to stand in one place guarding the castle all the time, especially since no one ever comes here anyways. You see their point, but the way they're whining about it kind of bothers you. What to do with this underling? Tell them to get back to work? You give them a lecture about responsibilities and unquestioning obedience. Your servants ought to do what they're told, whether they like it or not. They look really unhappy with you, but you're sure they'll thank you for this later. Venturing too far from the castle tends to spell death. You dismiss the underling and lie down in your nice and comfy overlord bed. All that lecturing made you want to take a nap. You fall asleep pretty quick. Just another one of your amazing talents as the overlord. You awake to a knock on your door. The underling from earlier brought back some company. You thought you told that underling to do their job, not to drag strangers into your room. Looks like they've took an unauthorized break away from the castle. You scold them, but ultimately, you're a little interested in this guest, so you let them off easily. You let them off easy. That underling, not too so bad. It's a maiden from the nearby human village. She says her role is to be captured by you. The maiden then goes on to say that she's been getting very impatient thinking about her impending capture, so she comes here to speed things up. You appreciate her honesty, but regret to inform her you never had any plans to capture any humans. She seems very disappointed by this. Perhaps I'm not performing my role well enough. How can I become more maiden-like? You don't really understand the question. You think this world puts way too much focus on destiny and junk. Just go home and stop worrying about it, you tell her. The maiden seems to be having a hard time wrapping her head around this. She insists that she stay and talk to you more. You feel warm inside as she looks into your eyes. This is the first time a human has looked at you without contempt. You wonder what to say. Okay, so we're gonna send her home, because I want to see what happens in the castle after that. You'd love to have all the conversations in the world with your new friend, but having a human girl here will definitely cause trouble. You put on your mean face and tell her to get lost. The maiden does what she's told and takes her leave. You figure you may as well go back to bed now. But you don't get to rest for very long. One of your underlings is tearing your throat out. You try to struggle, but you can tell you're already mortally wounded. What have you done to deserve this kind of end? You curse at them, choking on your own blood. Nice, you die, wondering if you could have done anything to prevent this. Assassinated Overlord and... Okay. So what's happening to the hero with all of this going on? So let's see. What happens after he runs into the maiden? Okay, you can go. Okay, we'll go through this. We'll kill them because the maiden does run into him covered in blood. You make quick work of the vile creatures who stood in your way. You feel much stronger now. On your way to the Overlord's castle, you spot a maiden heading back towards the town. She couldn't have come from the Overlord's castle, could she? This may be the exact maiden you're currently seeking to rescue. You approach her with curiosity, and she runs from you for some reason. You wonder what's that all about, but then you remember you're covered in demon blood. Not wanting to look like you're a crazy person chasing after her or anything, you nonchalantly walk back to the town. As you walk past the town square, you notice the whole village is crowded around. Is that the maiden you saw earlier? She's bounded to a wooden stake. The crowd is in a frenzy. Smoke begins to rise, and you stand idly by as flames consume the maiden. She must have done something horrible to deserve that. You decide to call it a day and return to your house, but you can't escape this sinking feeling. Maybe you aren't cut out for this role. Okay, so I wanted to see what happens if we approach the maiden when we're not covered in blood. You approach her with curiosity. You ask the maiden what she's doing. Doesn't she know the Overlord's castle is like right there? It's dangerous. The maiden explains that she spoke with the Overlord, and it turns out the demons never had any diabolical plans to harm the village or anything, or anyone in that. Believe her story, she can't be trusted. If I say like she can't be trusted, do I just kill her? Hold on. You aren't sure you should listen to this maiden. You've been taught your whole life that demons are evil. You ask if she's sure about all this, but she gets very upset that you think she would lie to you. She storms off before you can say anything else. You decide to return to the village, certain that she must have been the kidnapped maiden you were sent to rescue. Glad that took care of itself. You take your time walking home. Job well done today, you think to yourself. And then we get back to the town and she's burning. Okay, we're back to the maiden. This time we are going to believe her story. You have no reason to assume she's lying to you. Even though her story is kind of hard to believe, you feel you should trust her. You tell her you're pretty surprised that everyone has been wrong about demons all along. The townspeople must be informed of this immediately. The two of you return to the village. They had all been so worried. They praised you for your bravery. But the maiden quickly sets the record straight. There was nothing she needed to be rescued from in the first place. The villagers look to you for explanation. You politely inform them that it isn't your story to tell. You merely ran into her on the way to the castle. She explains that the Overlord isn't interested in capturing maidens or anything of the sort. The villagers turn to you again in disbelief. They aren't being subtle in how little they trust the maiden's story. You totally believe her, but the placate these fair citizens, you volunteer to speak to the demon personally, just in case. The crowd breaks into hushed whispers. You're too busy thinking what a great and reliable hero you are to hear what they're saying. The town's elder voice breaks you out of your thoughts. He implores you to meet with the Overlord immediately and says they'll all keep an eye on the maiden until you return. You figure that sounds alright, but the maiden is kind of intense for some reason. Did you miss something? You aren't sure what's going on, but you get the feeling it might be bad to leave the maiden on her own. But she suddenly takes off running. Oh, you thought the two of you were in this together. Her actions have convinced the crowd that she's obviously been a liar and a witch from the start. People are shouting for you to hunt her and her demon friends down already, but that doesn't sound like a very heroic task. You can't help but feel these people are wrong. It's up to you to catch up to her and talk to the demons in order to clear up the misunderstanding. You valiant, I apparently cannot say that word, dash after the maiden towards the Overlord's castle. But you were too late. Through the unguarded gates, you spot a group of demons surrounding a body. The maiden, she was a fool to have trusted the demons after all. Your hero blood is boiling. You'll avenge her death. You charge through the gates and eliminate every demon you see. What the are you doing killing my soldiers? The Overlord is angry. You vow to exterminate her and all of demonkind. You clash again and again, but the Overlord isn't going down easily. You're both dangerously low on health when everything goes black. Your quest has come to an abrupt end. A hero end. Okay, I now want to see what happens on the Underling side of this. The maiden is going on and on about some kind of destiny she's trying to fulfill. The bottom line from what you gather is that she wants you to take her to the Overlord. Sounds like it could be interesting. Besides, you have nothing better to do. Satisfied with your day out, you take the maiden back to the castle and present her to the Overlord. The Overlord asks you where you found this maiden, knowing full well that you left the castle when you weren't supposed to. You apologize for disobeying her, but hope that the maiden is an interesting enough present that you may be forgiven. The Overlord nods and says everything's cool as long as you always listen to her from now on. You're impressed with what an easygoing boss she is. You mention how you can't believe you and your friends even considered overthrowing her. She gives you a look and you say, "That was just a joke, of course." She smiles and dismisses you. Besides, it's about time for a nap. I think that was supposed to be besides. Dyslexia. No, that was a D. I don't know. You don't get to sleep long. Your friends wake you up. Rude. One of them is stepping on you pretty hard. You ask them what their deal is. They say they're planning a whole revolution. They're gonna get rid of the current Overlord and put a new ruler in place. They want to hear if you're in or out, and being a pretty lazy underling, you, of course, reply with, "That sounds like a lot of trouble. How about we just skip it instead?" Your friends question your loyalty to their cause. She's actually not so bad, guys. Your friends seem pretty disappointed. They apologize to you. Before you can ask what they're sorry about, one of them suddenly seizes you. Someone who's still loyal to the Overlord really has no place in our castle. You understand, right? Their claws tighten around your neck. You don't bother to struggle. You're outnumbered. You already know how things like this end. This is a pretty messed up thing to do to a friend, you tell them. They slit your throat in response. Okay, guys, let's kill the Overlord. You tell them you were just joking and clarify that you're totally in it to win it. They say you were always terrible with jokes. Whether or not you actually feel like killing the Overlord, you know how bad it'd be to end up on the wrong side of things. And if this assassination deal doesn't plan out, you can always pretend you were innocent all along. But beneath your shield of confidence, you worry about what you're getting yourself dragged into. You follow your friends outside the castle to talk more about the plan. You're curious if they have any idea how they want to go about this. They figured they'd just lock her in a room and set it on fire. What a stupid plan. That could go wrong in so many ways. You realize your friends are just a bunch of directionless thugs, unless without someone's guidance, your guidance. There'd probably be casualties if you fought her head on, and while slowly showing deaths make a revolution a heck of a lot more fun. It's probably the wrong way to go. Your friends agree and suggest that you play the assassin. You really didn't want it to come down to this. But you can't back down now. You'll have to be the one to assassinate the Overlord. Besides, no one has any better ideas. You and your friends turn to notice the maiden from earlier has overheard your entire conversation. It'd be bad for you if the Overlord found out about this. We're gonna toss the maiden in the dungeon, because if we kill the maiden, the hero's gonna show up and probably kill us. So I'm gonna do this one, then we'll come back to it. So we're gonna use the maiden for killing practice. This is just the way it has to be, you declare, before jumping her and clawing her guts out. It turns out you're already an expert at ending lives. Your friends call you a show-off. You go back into the castle to wash off all the icky human blood. As you're finishing up, you hear the sounds of battle outside. A hero has come. Seeing the dead maiden must have made him pretty angry. You get to thinking, if this hero took down the Overlord for you, everything might actually work out in your favor. You wait for things to die down outside before poking your head out. You spot the Overlord and hero locked in battle. They've worn each other down, making this easy for you. Once an opening presents itself, you hit the back of the hero's head, knocking him out. What are you doing? Couldn't you tell this was a duel? You don't respond. You have to carry out the assassination. You tackle her and rip her to shreds with your claws until she stops moving. You finish off the hero next. You can't let him revive and come after you later. Kind of a cheap victory, but it doesn't make any difference. Anyone who managed to survive comes crawling out of their hiding places. You are the new ruler of the castle. Your subjects bow before you. You live in fear that they'll will one day betray you as you had betrayed your Overlord. Okay, this time we are going to toss the maiden into the dungeon and see what that does. You and your friends seize the maiden and bring her to the dungeon under the castle. It's empty, save for decorative skulls, they're only there to make it feel more spooky. Good to know. Maiden is very upset. You leave her in the cell to continue scheming with your friends. But now a hero has arrived at the front gate. He's asking about a maiden, perhaps the very one you just locked up. The gatekeeper, who must have seen everything, tells the hero exactly what happened. What an idiot, you think. Why give the hero an excuse to start slaughtering us? The hero yells, "Prepare to face justice," and other such cliche hero lines before driving his sword into the gatekeeper's torso. You're small compared to a lot of your friends, so you're able to slip away without getting caught by that sword. You get to thinking, if this hero took down the Overlord for you, everything might actually work out in your favor. Okay, so this is just going to leave us to where... Okay, yep, they're fighting again. You knock him out. You are the new ruler of this castle. Your subjects bow before you. You live in fear that they will betray you as you betrayed your overlord. Okay, so didn't really change the outcome all that much, just a little bit. But you know what, guys? We'll be back next time with more Bad End Theater to see maybe what happens if we play another character. Maybe the maiden cannot get captured and can make it to the overlord. Maybe the hero doesn't just immediately start fighting. Maybe somehow we can get it to where the Underling doesn't try to assassinate the overlord. And maybe, just maybe, we can have a good ending instead of bad endings. But until next time, guys, bye. I love yous.